Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. So we're here today in Louisiana at the Slo Mojo Cru Rendezvous. Forget about the spelling, that's not important these days. Yeah, you ever get on Facebook and look at people's spelling on there? Anyway, we're here today, we have one job. We're gonna compare some different fire pits, whether it be a Solostove Bonfire, whether it be a propane fire pit. Got a couple of different ones of those. And we're going to decide as a group which one that we can really advocate and say works best for us. We're also going to show you our pros and cons with each type of fire pit. So as I say, we are going to brush over like a regular fire and the pros and cons to that, but we're mainly going to be talking about propane versus Solostove, and it's going to be an all-out brawl to see who's on top. We're going to be judging these fire pits on 6 criteria, and those 6 criteria are going to be the following. 1 is going to be the portability, because we have an issue with that in a lot of rigs when we're moving around. We don't have a lot of space to put a fire pit, so that's going to be a big issue in this contest. The second thing we're going to look at is the ease of use. How easy is it to actually get it out and use it and stuff like that whenever you're on a trip in a rig. The third thing we're going to look at is the cost of use. So how much does it cost for you to just continually use this if you want to use it for a little bit more than what you intended or something like that. Then we're going to look at how much heat does that fire give? How much heat does it put off? Does it radiate enough heat to keep you warm if it's cold outside? Then we're going to look at the ambiance of the fire. Does it give you that good warm-hearted feeling by looking at it? Which one do you just like the appeal of the look of better? And just the feeling of sitting around hanging out with friends. Which one do you just naturally want to hang out with? And the last thing we're going to look at is the initial cost of the fire pit, which can be a pretty big factor because we're going to range from $0 for a fire ring in a campground to $240 plus for a Solostove bonfire. All right, so let's talk about a traditional fire. What are the pros and cons of a traditional fire? Well, number one, I guess it's not very portable, but at the same time, it's really portable because a lot of campgrounds have fire rings if you're going to end up going to a campground. You do end up having to have some firewood, so you're going to have to get the firewood, you're going to have to split some kindling, you're going to have to start a fire the traditional way. The cost of use is going to be the cost of the firewood, of course. Now, traditional fire usually does have pretty good heat radiation there. A lot of people say that it's better than some of these other options for that purpose. I think they all put out good heat, so I can't really say anything there. As far as the ambiance of a traditional fire pit, and really the reason for all of these videos is when a fire is good in a traditional fire pit, it's good. And when it's bad, you know the deal, that smoke's chasing you around, you're having to move seats all the time. And so for that reason, a lot of people just kind of throw their hands up at it and don't do it anymore. And the initial startup cost on the traditional fire is usually $0 because you're usually going to have the camp spring provided for you. So it's going to be included in your reservation fees. So a few years ago, we invested in a Solostove bonfire. Now, a lot of you have seen my videos on that. They're pretty popular. But I'm going to tell you, I love the Solostove bonfire because I love the traditional wood fire, but without the smoke, which is essentially what that thing does. There can be a little bit of smoke, but as long as you don't have the wood too long and it's sticking out of the top, the wood's dried, it's seasoned, you're not hardly going to have any smoke. And that is what's drawn me to this the whole way. As far as the portability with the Solostove bonfire, I believe the diameter is 19 inches across. It comes with a carry case. It's pretty portable. Even when we had a travel trailer, I would just put it in the carry case and set it right inside the door and just have it ready to go. In our fifth wheel, I do keep it in the pass-through storage in the basement and the bottom. And there's always been plenty of room. I don't have any issues with it. Some people get the Ranger, which is the smaller version, but I myself wanted something a little bit bigger. And even the bonfire, sometimes it's hard to get wood to fit down inside it. And so I would be worried that with the Ranger, it'd be too hard to fit wood into to burn, if that makes any sense at all. Now, as far as the cost of use, you're still gonna have to buy some firewood to split up some kindling, have some logs. You're gonna just have to have fuel for your fire. Now, they do say that this is a more complete burn, so they say that firewood's supposed to last a little bit longer in the Solostove than a traditional fire pit. I don't really think that's the case, but you do get more of a thorough burn, and so you're gonna have hardly any ash left over the next day. Now, the elephant in the room with the Solostove fire pit. I was in this Solostove group. I had to leave because it was just too much for me. People hanging all these heat deflectors over the top saying they don't get heat radiation. I don't understand it. I mean, yes, there's more heat coming straight out of the top, but I've always been comfortable down in the 30s sitting beside the Solostove outside. But that's been such an issue that Solostove has come out with their own heat deflector to sit on top of there now. But all these people that I was seeing before that were hanging like grill lids over the top of it and stuff like that, that completely killed the ambiance, and I would never think about doing that personally. I did reach out to Solostove to see if they wanted to send me one of those deflectors so that I could review that and kind of see what I thought about it, but they never responded to that message, so I'm just stuck speculating there. Now, the ambiance of the Solostove fire, that's where, you know, it's going to be the best in my opinion. It's a good wood fire. You got the dancing flames. You have the flames that come out around the vents on the inside, around the top when it's burning real hot and you're getting that secondary burn. That thing is just awesome. And I don't care who you are, if you have an iPhone, you've done a slow-mo video of the Solostove, if you've been around one, at least 400 dozen times. Now, the Achilles heel to the Solostove, in my opinion, is the price, because it's going to be the most expensive option. And so right now it's April of 2022, and on their website it's $239 for the Solostove Bonfire. Now, you have to understand that this is high-grade stainless steel. It's pretty thick, and because of that, it does have cost associated with it. But I've had one for about 3 years or so. I have had another one for about a year. I love them, and I never thought I would get rid of them. That being said, I believe that we're leaning towards letting the Solostove that we carry in the rig go for the propane fire pit, and this is why. So back in February, we had an annual meetup with some friends, and it was pretty cold and rainy. I had the M-Combo gazebo tent, which I'll link the video up here. And during that time, it was pretty cold. We decided that one of my friends had an Outland off of Amazon, a fire bowl there. And so we decided to put that in the tent. Now, I would never put the Solostove in the tent because it would, as one of my friends said, it would work really good for a minute. With the propane fire pit, it doesn't put off quite as much heat going straight up, and you know, it's a controlled source. You can cut it off at any time, and so I felt comfortable putting it in the gazebo, which I've also read other people doing, so I also felt more comfortable with it. Now, when we put it in there, you would be amazed at how well it heated up that area. First, we had the sidewalls on. I put a couple of them down, like halfway down, just to add some extra ventilation. But before long, we had to put all sides like halfway down. And when it's cold, it's very comfortable in there. It's a little bit much. I looked and looked for a propane fire pit that was like 25,000 BTUs, because a lot of these fire pits are going to be 52 to 55,000 BTUs. It doesn't matter how small the unit is, the BTUs are still going to be over 50,000, all the ones that I found anyway. So it worked great for us on that trip in the tent, and that kind of got me thinking about some things. And number one, I was thinking, well, I never wanted one before because I didn't want to carry a propane tank, and you know, propane's kind of expensive and it's just cheaper to get firewood. But that's not necessarily true. So when you think about it, number one, if you're going to carry firewood, it's usually less space to carry a propane tank. Number two, if you're going to buy firewood at the park and you buy these little bitty bundles, I bought some at Tractor Supply a while ago, 3 little bundles of wood, it's $21. Well, I got a propane tank filled today and it was $20. So let me tell you, it's not any cheaper to get wood than it is to get propane, and that propane lasts longer for me. So the propane, I've used my fire pit about 4 times. Now, I usually don't use it as long as the wood fire because it's got an instant on, instant off. So you turn it on, you sit by the fire as long as you want, and then you turn it off and you're done. The portability is going to vary a little bit. Outland on Amazon, they had a square one, and that's the one that I was planning on purchasing because I figured that it would store better. It's a little bit smaller in size than the round ones, and I just figured it would store better in the storage. But you know, the way that it worked out, I actually was in Costco and I found this, I believe it's called Leisure Beacon, and it was cheaper. Most of these are going to range from between $100 to $150, $160. This one I got at Costco was like $99. It also had the igniter in it, which some of the models on Amazon don't have. But I've seen two of the different Outland fire bowls, one of the larger ones, which the Days have brought here, and one that's smaller. And I'm very happy with those products, so I can recommend those, and those will be links down in the description. I also have a link down there for the Solostove. I'll have a link for the Firepit that I bought, but that's going to be through Costco. So if you have a Costco membership and you want to look at it, and that's fine. I will say that I think that the Outland Fire Bowl has a little bit better ambiance than the one that I got at Costco, but it was $50 cheaper. And I don't think that it had $50 worth of ambiance for me. So radiation of heat from the propane fire pit, I believe that it puts off a good amount of heat. You know, you're gonna sit around the fire, you're gonna sit a couple feet away, and it puts off about the same amount of heat as a Solostove, in my opinion. As far as the ambiance goes, I think a lot of the issue with the ambiance with the propane fire pit, it's never gonna have that wood fire look. But number one, you can use those in places a lot of times where there's a fire ban and you can't burn wood. And number two, a lot of it's going to be depending on the lava rocks that the manufacturer has in there. A lot of people complain if you read the reviews about the dust, which there is a little bit of dust in those rocks. You're going to get most of it off though if you dump the rocks out on the ground, out of the bag, and then pick them up off the ground and put them in the fire pit, because a lot of that dust is going to be just transferred to the ground at that point. But I believe that that's kind of where some of the ambiance of the Outland bowl for me was a little bit better. It's because it had better lava rocks. And I'm sure that's something that you could upgrade if you wanted to certain things, but I've never really put that much effort into looking. So let's go around, let's talk to some friends, let's see what they prefer and their pros and cons with each type of fire.
A traditional fire, I mean, I like the campfire smell. Some people really like that. That's a big deal to me. I like that. Other people don't want to have their hair and their clothes, smell like campfire.
Used to be when we were younger and we went camping, you had to have a fire because we cooked over the fire. We don't cook over the fire anymore. But so really now, I don't like a regular fire very well.
Well, let's see. The regular fire ring, I'm one of those that grew up playing in the fire. So I like to have my poker stick. I like to make the fire itself. I just like to mess with it throughout the day, or night, I should say, while the fire is burning. I like to just rearrange it. So that's what I like about that one.
Well, I'm a country boy, so I was raised in the country. I love a fire. I just like the smell of a fire. And the unfortunate thing is the smell of the fire is exactly what Miss Barbara doesn't like. She'll tell you more about that. But I love a traditional fire, but it is a lot of work.
I like the fire ring around the campground because I like the crowd of people that come around. Don't care for the smell. Doesn't necessarily warm me because there's so many people, but when you have the big bonfire or the big ring, you can have a lot of people there.
What I like about a regular fire ring is actually the smell of the fire. Now, I don't like taking the smell back with me, but I do love hearing it crackle and just sitting around it and just smelling it, just not with it on my clothes though.
I like the looks of the traditional fire. I just don't like the smoke. Doesn't matter where you sit. It seems like the wind shifts and follows you wherever you go. And then later on, you go back inside and your clothes smell like smoke from the wood. And then it's hard to take wood from one state to another, especially if you're traveling.
The Solostove was really cool. I gotta admit, it was really interesting, except for you gotta prep the wood. So you really gotta get it close and small enough to fit within the actual Solostove. So there's a little more prep, I think, involved.
Actually, I thought it was pretty cool. It's the first time that we've sat in front of a Solostove, so it was pretty cool. But then you have to haul your wood, and you have to make sure it's the right size, your solo stove.
The Solo Stove, first time that I've ever seen it. And I liked it. It seemed to be a lot of soot in the air at first, but I liked how it reused the energy. And for larger groups, it kept you warmer than, I would say, a propane stove.
I like the Solo Stove because of the technology behind it. Just it's clean burning and it's a great fire.
What I do like about the Solo Stove is it's clean. You don't smell like smoke, but you still have that fire effect. So I do like the Solo.
I actually thought it was really large, and then once it got going, there wasn't much smoke. You know, to me it was a pretty cool idea, and chopping the wood, sticking it in there, and the fire actually lasted a long time. So you don't really have to keep putting a lot of wood in it.
The wood starts pretty quick. You don't have to pour anything in it, any type of ignition fluid for it to light. The cons is the size that you would have to store it along with the wood that you'd have to find a place to put it. And when you full time, it's space is an issue.
I like that Solo Stove because it gives to me a bigger flame, and I'm all about the flame, and then it's basically smokeless. The only thing I don't like about it being smokeless, because usually smoke follows me, and you know what they say about that.
Is he saying that smoke follows beauty? Well, the propane is awesome, but you got to have propane. That's number one. And the fact that you don't have that campfire smell, from some people that is a plus. For me, I actually smell like a campfire.
We love our propane. We have the large Outland 58,000 BTU, I think it is. We have a cover for it. We carry it in the back of our pickup because it doesn't fit in the bay of our fifth wheel. But we love it. It's like plug and go. Easy to do, but you have to make sure you have propane, or else you're out of luck. So I think propane wins in our book.
I do like a propane fire pit for certain occasions. If it's a smaller group and you're not using it for heat, you're using it more for ambiance, then I would go with the propane.
But I think what we're going to go with is going to be a propane pit. They seem to store easy, and they're easy to deal with. Let it cool down, put it away, hit the road, and you don't have to tote around firewood. We all got propane bottles, so we're ready to go.
The propane, I love the propane because of its portability. It's easy to put into the basement of the RV. It cools off pretty fast, and you've got that consistent heat. So I do like the propane. If I could take the propane and the Solo Stove, I would take them both. But my husband would only let us have one. So I think it's propane wins.
You know, the propane is used on propane. I do like that. You don't get the smell of firewood, but the cons is you do run out of propane. So you do have to go and refill your propane tank in order to have the fire.
The pros I like about the propane is you get the heat from the lava rocks, and it's a clean fire. There's no smoke and no smell afterwards. The cons to it is it's propane and you have to go fill it up, and depending on how much you run it. So you can run it on high. If you run it on high for a few hours, and there goes your 20-pound bottle of propane. So,
Okay, what I like about the propane aspect of it all is that some of these campgrounds you can't have fire, so that helps out right there. And plus, you can get close to it, and the smoke won't be all in your eyes.
Okay, guys, so the panel of professionals have spoken, and the one that they chose, the winner of the fire pit brawl, is the propane fire pit. Not one person voted for the Solo Stove. That kind of hurt my heart a little. But the majority of the votes were for the propane fire pit. And number two, running a close second place, was just the traditional fire pit of dealing with the smoke and everything the old-fashioned way. So there you go. From us here at the Slo Mojo Cru Rendezvous, the propane fire pit's on top. I am going to, like I say, have some links in the description that you can find these products at if you're interested in, as well as some links to the videos that we've done on a couple of these products in the past. So thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.